Good evening and welcome. We're coming to you live from Stockton University's Galloway campus. I'm John Frungen, Executive Director of the William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy here at Stockton. We are very happy to partner with the League of Women Voters of Atlantic County to co-sponsor tonight's debate between candidates for Atlantic County Clerk. Special thanks to Victoria Druding of the League for her work in putting this together. I also want to thank Stockton University's Information Technology and Audiovisual Services teams for their efforts in making valuable debates like this available for free to the public all fall. A recording of this debate may be viewed at www.stockton.edu/Hughes Center. I also want to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in this debate. I believe your presence here is a sign of respect for the voters. So let's meet the candidates. To the camera's left is Egg Harbor City Mayor Dr. Lisa Giampetti, the Democrat. And to the right is Hamilton Town Councilman Joe Girallo, the Republican. And now I will turn over the proceedings to tonight's moderator, Janet Fisher-Hughes of the League of Women Voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Janet Fisher-Hughes, and I'd like to welcome you to this candidates forum on behalf of the Hughes Center for Public Policy at Stockton University and the League of Women Voters of Atlantic County. I will be your moderator this evening. I am on the boards of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey as well as the League of Women Voters of Camden County. I am joined by Miriam Serhan of the League of Women Voters of Atlantic County, who will be our timekeeper this evening. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. This means that we never support or oppose individual candidates or political parties for an elective office. The League of Women Voters welcomes all adult citizens, women and men, and students as young as 16 who support our mission. Membership in the League provides opportunities to be involved in unique activities, including aspects of the political process without running for office or being active in a political party. If any of this sounds interesting and you would like to join us, please log on to lwvnj.org to become a member. The League also provides information about upcoming elections. This is provided by our general information website called Vote 411. Search for it. We want to remind voters that there are 3 ways they can vote on the upcoming election. Vote by mail ballot. Registered voters can apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found at vote.nj.gov or contacting their county clerk. Remember, vote by mail ballots cannot be returned to any early voting location or at any polling place for this election. In-person early voting. This new option enables all registered voters to cast their ballot in person using a voting machine during a 9-day period prior to Election Day. You can now choose to vote in person when it's most convenient for your schedule. In-person early voting locations will be open Saturday, October 23rd through Sunday, October 31st. Hours will be Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. No appointment necessary. At your polling place on Election Day, you may vote in person at your polling place from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 2nd. Moving on to tonight's forum and format, I wish to reiterate the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. Also, it is League policy that the moderator must not be eligible to vote in the election being moderated and therefore should have no personal interest in the outcome. I live in Camden County. I will now review the basic structure of this evening's forum. Candidates will have 2 minutes for each of their opening and closing statements. The timekeeper, Miriam, will give a 30-second warning to candidates by holding up a yellow card. Then she will signal that the response time is up by showing the red card. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each of my questions and will be given a 15-second warning. I will allow candidates to briefly finish a sentence. Please come quickly to a conclusion when the time has run out. Time may not be banked. In this election, we have 2 candidates vying for one 5-year term. Neither of the candidates is an incumbent. Both candidates have joined us this evening. The forum will begin with opening statements followed by questions. We will end with closing statements from the candidates. I will remind all candidates to stick to the issues relevant to the office of Atlantic County Clerk and not bring in personal matters or other matters unrelated to that office. Let us begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
Good evening, everyone, and it is an honor to be here tonight. I thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and for Stockton College for helping it get off the ground with the everything they do. I would like to just say a few things about my family and my history. I'm married to my husband, Michael, for 30 years. Together we have 3 grown children, Ryan, Michael, and Matthew. Michael, my husband Michael, and 2 of my children are also vets from the Air Force and the Army. When my youngest son went to school full-time, I went back to college full-time to get my bachelor's degree. I was a stay-at-home mom before that, and I enjoyed that. It was a great part of my life. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business management, I wanted to get involved in politics. I wanted to run for council and help my community in any way I can, and that's what I did. I was a councilwoman for 6 years, and I've been the mayor now for 9 years. I also have volunteered in many organizations and sports clubs and nonprofits, and I would like to make the clerk's office user-friendly, efficient, effective, and an extension of the community. I also would like to collaborate with mayors, municipal clerks, superintendent offices, the office and board of election to make the office the best it can be. I'm a people person, hard worker, and enjoy serving people. I am looking forward to serving as the Atlantic County Clerk.
Thank you. And Joseph Girallo.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for their time, because things like this don't come together easily. I'm going to just give a little brief history of myself. I was born and raised in Hamilton. I'm married to my lovely wife of 25 years. I'm a proud father of 2 daughters that are both in the medical field, and I find that as an honor, especially the way things are today. I am very proud of my work record. I've worked for Atlantic County Improvement Authority for the past 35 years. I have worked with millions of dollars of federal money, state money, local money. I have rehabbed over 7,000 homes throughout this county. I have helped over 4,000 first-time home buyers, and I'm so proud to say that over all of my years, my audits were perfect. The job got done with ease. I also want to say that my public record of service began before I was 18 years old. I've served 40-plus years on our local planning board, 9 years on our zoning board. I spent 15 years on our Board of Education, the majority of those years as president and vice president. I have handled budget after budget, $60 million budget. I've served the past 6 years on Hamilton's Town Council. I am a proud member of the Hamilton Lions Club for over 30 years. And just so the public understands and knows, I am a cancer survivor and proud member of the Hamilton Cancer Foundation. I'm running for the clerk's office to better serve the people of Atlantic County for transparency as well as accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to the question and answer portion of the forum. I have used my discretion as moderator to select as many different questions as possible in the available time. We will have time to ask at least 13 and as many as 19 questions this evening. Candidates will be called in order using a sequence I prepared in advance. My order is designed so that, as much as possible, no candidate falls in first or last position more often than the other candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question with a 15-second warning. At my discretion as moderator, rebuttals will be allowed. 30 seconds will be allotted for rebuttals with a 15-second warning. And we will start with the first question, which is, the role of the Atlantic County Clerk is more complex than many residents understand. What do you believe to be the most challenging role outside of the election oversight responsibilities? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
There are many aspects to the clerk's office. I think that one of the most important things in the clerk's office is, and you touched on that, is that the public truly doesn't understand all of the functions that go on in the clerk's office. The public needs to be made aware of that, whether it means that the clerk has to go to civic organization, mayors and councils, and be a part of that. That's where it needs to be. That needs to be spelled out. A huge part of it is, and every person in this county at some point in their time will use the clerk's office, whether it's for their deed, whether they're looking for a passport, whether it's an absentee ballot. All of those things can be done. They can be explained. They should be on our website in a video explaining it to people as we go forward. That is many of the things that need to be done at the clerk's office. Biggest part is transparency and accountability.
All right, Lisa Jim Petty.
I think that the most challenging part of the clerk's office is to form partnerships and good relationships with people that can help you make the office better. That would be the superintendent of elections, the board of elections, municipal clerks, also mayors, and obviously the community. And with their input, I think a lot of the challenges can be overcome. Also, upgrading technology is also a challenge for the clerk's office. I know there is a limited budget, and it's so important nowadays that we have the technology for especially the younger folks who want to get involved in the process.
Rebuttals, Joseph Girallo,
I have no rebuttal.
Lisa Jim Petty.
No rebuttal, thank you.
Next question. The Atlantic County Clerk's Office is responsible for the management and oversight of all elections, public records, recording fees, passports, trade name appointments, and notaries, along with other lesser but important tasks. What management experience do you bring to this position that makes you better qualified than your opponent? And first, we will ask Lisa Jim Petty.
Well, I did neglect to mention my vocation throughout my life. I started my career as a Wawa manager. I was a manager since I was 18 years old, and I also was a coordinator for the after-school program in the Egg Harbor City Community School, and I served 160 students and supervised probably 15 teachers. Also, I was the director of the New Jersey after-school program after that, and now I am employed with Smithville Community Center as a recreation director and office manager. I have extensive experience in management, plus a degree in business management, and also a master's in administration and a doctorate in organizational leadership.
Joseph Girallo.
It's quite an easy question for me to answer. 36 years and 36 perfect audits, handling millions of dollars. Attention to detail in working with homeowners, client files, numbers, working with a staff that's under me, working with the community, working with all types of people, contractors, homeowners. Under the 108 program, deal with bankers, business people. That rounds out the ability to do the job. My current time also on the Board of Education, listening to people, listening to parents, listening to administrators. You have to have an ear to listen. So I believe that my past and current experience better serve me to do the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttals?
None, thank you.
All right.
None?
All right, next question. The public accesses the clerk's office frequently for various needs, such as passports, wills, deeds, public records. What changes, if any, would you make to the clerk's office to make these and other needs more accessible? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
Okay. What needs to happen in the clerk's office is people need accessibility to it. I work in the building in Atlantic City, and many days the county clerk's office is empty. There's a large population on the eastern end of the county that needs services. There's no one there. That's first of all. Second of all, as I've said from day one, at no extra cost to the taxpayers, this office should be open on Saturdays. When elected, this county clerk will be there on Saturdays, because people shouldn't have to take off from work to go get a passport or to do a business name or whatever has to take place. They extended hours, weekends need to happen. Also need to have a clerk that is there all the time and be hands-on. Thank you.
Lisa Gimpetti.
Well, I think priority, and I do agree with Joe on this, is that you have to have accessibility. And there are many communities that have transportation problems. They cannot get to the clerk's office, and it's just not conducive to meeting their needs. And that's the huge problem. I think that if money were to allow, I would have more satellite clerks sites that people could go to, and they wouldn't have to travel all the way to Mays Landing to go there. And I think it would be worthwhile looking into if some of these services could be put online to streamline the process.
All right, rebuttals?
I have none.
Next question. Do you hope to achieve any political or policy goals in office if you are elected? If so, what are they? And how do you hope to accomplish them? And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
I don't believe that I'm looking into any type of political gain from this, if that's what the question is. I'm basically a person who wants to get involved in a cause and do the best job that I can possibly do. Politically, I don't believe the clerk's office is a political office, first of all. And policy goals, I would say that is very limited for the clerk's office, but of course there's always things that you can look at once you get into the office, what those policies are, and then make the appropriate changes or additions to that.
Joseph Girallo.
First of all, the clerk's office is non-political. Unfortunately, we're running as Democrat and Republican. That's the way the law is set. But to me, the day the election ends, everyone that walks through that door, no matter who they are, get services. So it's not political. As far as political gain, let me make the record clear. This is my last run and highest run, meaning I am not looking to run for state senate or assembly. And goals in the office would be to take this office from the worst ran clerk's office in the county that's been full of mistakes, full of botched elections, to the best run county clerk's office in the state, something to be proud of, something for our taxpayers to get their money's worth for. Thank you.
Rebuttals.
None, thank you.
All right, next question.
Easy so far.
Very much so. Are you in favor or are you not in favor of expanding the current program of issuing county IDs for residents who do not have a driver's license? If so, what are your suggestions for expanding this program? If not, what are your reasons for not supporting the expansion of this program? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
I believe the program should be expanded. And the way to expand the program is to go to our senior centers, and it doesn't take that much to take the photographer with you and the machine with you and do that. It needs to be expanded. I think that IDs are very important, and we're going to see how much more important they become as we go forward. I mean, you cannot buy anything without an ID, and that's my position on it. I will work every day, whether it be to go to the kiosks throughout the county, Atlantic City, wherever, senior centers, you name it, we should be there. And we should advertise it on our website, the days that we'll be there, and that we can do IDs for residents. Thank you.
Lisa Gimpetti.
Well, one of the things the clerk's office does do is issue IDs for senior citizens. I think identifications are obviously important. Not everybody has a driver's license, but I think it should be the person's choice whether they want an identification. And like I said, if you don't have a driver's license, that obviously is a very helpful thing to have, because it would make it easier for you to register to vote and things like that, and also to get the services that you need. And the seniors are a population that may need something like that, and obviously that should be expanded, absolutely.
Rebuttals.
No rebuttal.
Okay. Next question. There is current confusion among voters and potential voters concerning voter registration, mail-in ballots, early voting, and drop boxes. What solutions do you suggest for reducing voter confusion regarding these issues? And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
Well, one of the things that I would like to do is reach out to the schools, maybe collaborate with the superintendent of elections to reach out to the high schools and grade schools and actually talk about voting and talk about what the clerk's office does, and also reach out to the community as well. As a candidate, I can tell you that people are confused about voting. They are confused even about what party they're in. They're confused about primaries. There just needs to be a big push for educating the public on the voting process and how our government actually works. And we all know that each government in the municipality is different. So we need to also get the mayors on board and talk to the people and make sure that they know what kind of government they have.
Joseph Girallo.
I agree, because it seems like as you're out there and you talk to people, I voted by mail, why am I getting an absentee ballot? There is a lot of confusion, and that's a major problem. And I think that where we have fell short is, and I agree with Lisa, in educating the public. We have failed in this county to educate the public. People should understand how to get an absentee ballot. When you do that, you can't go to the polls. If you throw it away, that you're not going to be able to vote. You're going to have to go there and vote provisionally. People don't understand the whole process. For those of us that are involved in the process, it's confusing at times. For those of us that are involved in the process, we understand the process. But it's difficult sometimes to make the public understand. And I think that, as I've spoke about, videos online, and I know that not everybody has a computer, but all of our local access channels, there should be a discussion from the clerk's office discussing this. It costs nothing to do that.
All right. Rebuttals? Either of you?
No.
All right. Next question is, the 2020 election was mired by accusations of election fraud, which the courts rejected. What measures would you take if such accusations were made in Atlantic County post an election? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
First of all, you have to be transparent. Second of all, you have to include everyone in the process, and it has to be an open process. I will tell you that I believe that our elections in this county are well ran, and I don't think that that voter fraud is a part of any of it. And I would say that that is number one, that we need to make sure that we are transparent in each and every way. I also have said all along that if we want to do things, we need to take a look at voter rolls, scrub the voter rolls, and we also need to make sure that if a person gets an absentee ballot, they deserve that ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Jimpetti.
Well, just to preface that, 2020 was obviously an unusual and unique election. I mean, everyone in the county got ballots and had to vote by mail-in. So that was a difficult situation, so I can understand the accusations of fraud and whatnot. But I do agree with Joe that our election was really run well by the superintendent of elections. I felt comfortable that the votes were being counted, they were tracked, and it was an open process that was, viewed by many witnesses. So the only thing I would say is that there really could have been more information put out about the process, because once again, the education is a big part of making people feel comfortable with voting.
Thank you. Rebuttals?
No.
Either of you? All right. Next question. Do you support same-day voter registration or not? What are your reasons for supporting or not supporting same-day voter registration? And we will start with Lisa Jimpetti.
I do not think that same-day voter registration is necessary if we get the information out there, which we haven't gotten the information out there. I believe the voter registration was October 12th was the deadline. I don't think that's long enough. I think it should be extended. But whether it's extended to the day of, I guess that will be a decision that the people would have to make. And if they did make that decision, I would support it 100%. I feel like it could be a little difficult to verify and really go over those voter registrations, because I know they are looked at quite extensively. I did have experience with that in an election before, so I think it could be problematic.
Joseph Girallo.
I would agree that you should not have same-day registration and be able to walk in the polls to vote, because I don't know that you're not registered in 5 other municipalities or 5 other places, or left out your middle initial. So I certainly agree with Lisa with that, because I think that it's a process. And we certainly know that Election Day falls on the first Tuesday after a Monday in November. This year we've extended it to early voting, gives you 9 days ahead of time. Your vote by mails went out in September. So to have someone register on Election Day and vote, I think that we cannot verify the process. So I would not. If it becomes a law, of course you have to support it, because you're going to uphold the Constitution.
Rebuttals?
None here.
All right. Next question. How would you describe the current state of the voting machines used in Atlantic County? If elected, what plans, if any, do you have for updating the voting machines used in the county? And how will you go about doing this? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
Okay. The new vote by mail, the new early voting machines are new. That'll be in the locations. They're kind of like an iPad. I do think that some of our older citizens may have difficulty seeing that for the first time. It's like an iPad screen. I kind of like the new machine. The machines that will be used on Election Day are the old style. I believe they'll be phased out over time, so I believe that money has been budgeted already to do such. So the upgrades are on their way. I believe that the new machines and new sign-in books are much better than where we were, and I think that that's already going to be done by the time we get there in January. Thank you.
Lisa Jimpetti.
Well, I have experienced probably 15 elections, and I do realize that we have had a lot of problems with voting machines during that time. Sometimes they get jammed, sometimes they don't read correctly, but it seems like all the problems wind up getting fixed. However, they are in need of updating and being more modern. We do have a better system of voting with those machines that some states do, I believe, but they do need to be upgraded. but I think for the most part, they're very easy to use, and people, that aren't familiar with technology probably would prefer them, but I think it's inevitable that it's going to go more technical.
Rebuttals?
None here.
Okay. Next question. The use of mail-in ballots has increased and has been credited as one reason for the record-setting voter turnout for the 2020 election. What challenges, if any, does the increasing use of mail-in ballots present to the clerk's role? And what opportunities or advantages does the increasing use of mail-in ballots present to the clerk's role? And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
Well, the opportunities and advantages are definitely that you can track the vote, who voted, who didn't vote, you know how many votes are out, and that was really a big help this past election, because a lot of people, like we talked about earlier, did not know how to vote or whatever, so you could actually, someone could reach out to those people and help them to figure it out just by knowing that they didn't vote yet. So that was a good thing. I think that the challenges are absolutely more labor-intensive issues. You have to have people there. You have to have several people there while they're counting and opening the ballots. So I think that's the challenging part of mail-ins.
Joseph Girello.
I happen to agree with Lisa on this. It's labor-intensive. And the problem with mail-in ballots at times is if they're falling into the wrong hands. We hope that that doesn't happen. But going forward, in my belief, with early voting, I think that you're going to see less and less vote by mail, because when the polls are open for 9 days, I think that it gives somebody an opportunity that was going to be on vacation or wherever they were going to be. It is labor intensive. I think it's a major concern, and it's something that I'm hoping that all the new technology will lessen going forward. With that being said, I think it's wonderful that you have so many options and ways to vote, and everyone should exercise their right to vote. That's most important, no matter who they vote for. That's important.
Rebuttals? Nope. All right. Next question. There has been much discussion across the United States and in New Jersey regarding changing the format of the ballot. In what ways, if at all, would you propose changing the format of the ballot in Atlantic County? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
Well, it depends which ballot you're talking about, whether it's a primary ballot and endorsed candidates, or you're talking about a general election ballot. I firmly believe that the general election ballot is something that, A, the public is used to. It is a bit confusing now that school board elections have been added to it. So an example, in my town, there's 6 people running for Board of Education, and then you've got all of the other slots. And if anything, the Board of Education is just as important as mayor and council, because let's face it, most of your money is spent at a Board of Education. For some reason, the Board of Education candidates wind up down the bottom. If you look at the under-over vote, a lot of people don't do that. As far as the primary ballot, that's something for the party leaders to work out with endorsed candidates. Thank you.
Lisa Gimpetti.
Well, there was a lot of discussion in the primary about the ballot and changing the ballot. The clerk has probably not that much input on that. However, I believe that people are used to voting that way. It's called the line. It may seem a little confusing because I did encounter that last year when I was campaigning for mayor, that people wanted to vote across. They didn't really understand. If they were from just recently new voters, they didn't understand how it worked. But there are options like clustering and things like that. But I think for the most part, everybody understands our ballots. I do agree that the Board of Education is a problem because that tends to go down the line too. So usually the first couple people on the ballot are the ones that win. It's very rare that someone on the end of the ballot, no matter how many people know them, win in those elections.
Rebuttals?
None here.
Lisa Gimpetti? No rebuttal? Okay. Just making sure. Next question. Approximately 1/3 of the registered voters in Atlantic County are non-affiliated with either political party and are therefore unable to vote in our closed primary elections. The non-participation of independent voters could be solved by instituting open primaries. Is this something you would support or not? And what are your reasons for the support or lack of support? And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
I feel like the non-affiliated voters do want to stay non-affiliated, so open primaries may or may not be something they would be interested in, but it is absolutely true that some people go out to the polls on the primary and they expect to be able to vote for the candidate that they want, and when they find out they can't do it, they're very upset. But as a non-affiliated voter, you can declare at the polls and vote whatever party you want. So if at that time they decided that they wanted to be a Democrat or Republican, they could just declare at the polls and vote. And a lot of them don't know that either, and that's a problem.
Joseph Girallo.
I think clearly lack of education, lack of communication to voters, what they can and cannot do as an unaffiliated voter. I would not support open primaries personally, but the clerk's office doesn't make that decision. That would be a statewide decision because you can't have some counties have an open primary and some that could not. The problem with an open primary that I have studied over the years is that sometimes you wind up with a candidate that's the weakest of all in the primary instead of the strongest that's in the primary. So, and I believe that both parties would want to put forward their strongest candidate. So open primaries are my way not to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttals. All right. Next question. There is widespread discussion in many states, including New Jersey, regarding ranked choice voting. Do you support ranked choice voting? And what are your reasons for support or lack of support for this type of voting? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
That's an interesting question. I think you'd have to support that if that's the will of the people and that's the will that would be carried out. I think that it's people's choice. That's why we live where we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Gimpetti?
Yes, I mean, it's a unique idea, and like Joe said, that we don't make those decisions, but however, if that were to be made, we would support it. I mean, it's always good to look at different views and put that information out there and see what the people think about it.
Rebuttals?
No.
Okay. Next question. County clerks throughout the state have voiced concerns regarding the ability of the state voter registration database to integrate properly with the electronic poll books used by each county. Do you share these concerns? And if so, what will you do as county clerk to address this issue? And we will start with Lisa Gimpetti.
Yes, I think it is an issue that they can't integrate with that, and I don't know why in this day and age they can't. There are different programs, one of which I used, that sort of integrate with you knowing who voted from your iPad. So I don't see why that could not be incorporated into our elections, and it would make things a lot easier and elections run a lot smoother if that could happen.
Joseph Girallo.
I think the technology is a wonderful thing. And when we think back where technology was years ago, I think that technology works if it works. And that's a concern. But I do think that the clerk, once again, you'll be given what tools you're going to use. You have to make sure that those tools work to the best that they can. I think that that's what's important here. Taking a look at it, making sure that it works, making sure that it connects, making sure that there's not an issue on Election Day or when the votes are to be counted, and that we wind up going down the road with recounts or there's a question. It needs to be finite.
Rebuttals? No. All right. Next question. Drop boxes are utilized for mail-in ballots. Do you believe we have enough drop boxes in Atlantic County? Why or why not? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
I believe in the drop box theory. I think that it works well. When you take a look and people mail their ballots, we've heard this excuse over years, their ballot gets lost, it doesn't get there. That's dedicated. Me personally, I'd like to see a drop box at every municipal town hall. As ours is in Hamilton, with a camera on it and a light on it 24 hours a day so that people know that their vote is safe and that they drop their vote off. It didn't go into the mail and go into the hitherlands, so to speak. That's what's important. People have to know that their vote counts, and I do believe that drop boxes are important, and I think that they work. I just would like to see more of them.
Lisa Jimpetti.
I think that after COVID last year, I think people are more comfortable with the box, and I do believe that there should be one in every municipality, if not more in larger municipalities. The one caveat is that you do have to have a security system outside to monitor. In Egg Harbor City, we did not have that, so we did not have a drop box in Egg Harbor City, and our residents who are underserved, and some do have problems with transportation, had to transport their ballot to surrounding communities or the county. So I think it's a good service for people and something that really has to be done.
Rebuttals? All right. Next question. Regarding mail-in ballots, what steps, if any, would you put in place to assure security of each ballot and its proper tabulation? And we will start with Lisa Jimpetti.
I do think that our mail-in ballots were secure. I think they were monitored properly. Like I said, that people were scared to put it in the ballot box, in the drop box at first, but after last year, I think that they will feel more comfortable about that. And also, really, people, the names have to be sorted out because if people receive ballots that shouldn't receive ballots, that's a problem too. And that's something that really has to be addressed. And now that we have more time to devote to thinking about this instead of just distributing ballots to the Atlantic County, I think we can overcome some of the gaps that we encountered.
Joseph Girallo.
I would concur, but I would go just a couple steps further with that. I think that mail-in ballots, I should say, mail-in ballots, the voter list really, and I'm going back to this because this really bugs me, and I've said this all over the county, the list needs to be scrubbed. It needs to end. My father died 3 years ago. He still gets 2 ballots every election. We don't vote them. But the question becomes how many people are voting them. That needs to stop. That's key, and that's important. And that's my position on that.
Rebuttals.
I would just like to say one thing that I learned about the mail-in ballots and the issue that Joe brings up. It is an issue. However, if you do not want to receive the ballot anymore, you shouldn't toss it in the trash can. What you have to do is either take a picture of it and text it to the superintendent of elections office, or bring it to the superintendent of elections office yourself and have them take it off the list. That's the only way you're going to get it off the list.
Joseph Girallo.
Unfortunately, Lisa, I'd like to agree with you on that one, but I have done that, not once, not twice. Thank God we haven't gotten one for this election, but we got them for the primary. After 3 times, enough's enough.
Thank you. Next question. What restrictions, if any, would you put on mail-in ballots? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
I would put no further restrictions than what the law currently requires. And I don't believe that it is the job of the county clerk to make policy. We're there to enforce the policy and enforce whatever the statutes are, because they're not an Atlantic County statute when it comes to a mail-in ballot. Thank you.
Lisa Jim-Petty.
I do not believe any more restrictions should be put on the mail-in ballots. I did encounter issues at one point in time several years ago where the directions weren't crystal clear. I think the directions should be crystal clear and not left up to someone's interpretation the day of. Okay, so for one quick example, the person that delivers the ballot, does the voter who voted, are they a carrier that delivered the ballot? Should they sign it? Because I had votes rejected because they were not signed by the voter as a carrier to the mailbox. So the instructions need to be clear and everybody needs to be on the same page.
Rebuttals.
That's why I firmly believe that videos on the clerk's website explaining this, and I think that Lisa and I do agree, it's communication, it's transparency, it's explaining. Repetition makes people learn.
Lisa Jim-Petty. Rebuttal? No? Okay. Next question. The use of drop boxes has increased. Do you support the use of the guidelines issued by the state in the 2020 election? And if so, do you support the legislation being codified into law? Why or why not? And, excuse me, we will start with Lisa Jim-Petty.
I think the rules were fine. It prevents people from just dumping ballots into a box arbitrarily, maybe 10, 15, 20. So I feel the limit was acceptable. And other things like cameras being out there, that I think that's a very good rule. And yeah, I think there should be some sort of legislation to codify the use of drop box, because apparently this is the direction that we are going in as a society, at least in New Jersey.
Joseph Girallo.
Absolutely support it, absolutely would support the legislation behind it, because then it becomes enforcement. There's a set of rules and regulations. It's not nilly-willy. There's rules and regulations for the clerk, the Board of Elections to follow, and that's most important. So I concur. Thank you.
Rebuttals. All right. Next question. What is the role of the challenger at the polling site? And in what ways, if at all, would you change the role of the challenger? And what are your reasons for making or not making this change? We will start with Joseph Girallo.
The role of the challenger, as I see it, it's in statute, and it's quite clear that there can be no campaigning within 100 feet of the polls, as an example. You cannot sit there and campaign. You can't sit there and talk to people. I certainly support the role of a challenger. And if there's an issue, the challenger is not supposed to be the individual that deals with it. If you were to come in and they know that you are not that person that you say you are to vote, they are to point it out to the board worker. Currently, I would not change the role of any challenger. I would hope that more people would be challengers on Election Day and become part of the process. Thank you.
Lisa Jim-Petty.
Well, in Egg Harbor, we've always had challengers at the polls, and they've done an outstanding job. Again, they need to know the rules, and hopefully they get the rules, but we haven't really had too many issues with that. My only issue is that some of them do not stay till 8 o'clock, till the end of the election, which could cause a problem. Things happen, people come in, that's a heavy time of the day for voting, and I think the challengers need to be there the whole time.
Thank you. Any rebuttals?
No.
All right. Next question. There has been some criticism of the Atlantic County Clerk's Office website for being hard to navigate and for being not user-friendly. What, if anything, would you do to address these concerns? And we will start with Lisa Jim-Petty.
Well, everything does cost money, but hopefully the technology budget will allow to the clerk's office to revamp the whole website because even though it is usable, it's just not always user-friendly, and it is very hard to navigate. So in that respect, you do get the information that you need from it, but it's extremely hard to find. I know where I work at Smithville, we use the website a lot to find out property sales and things like that, and the information is always available, but it's really outdated, and it also needs to be connected to more social mediums, like possibly a Facebook or possibly, Instagram, whatever was decided.
Joseph Girallo.
I couldn't agree more. As an employee of the government that uses the website every day, it is not easy to navigate. And a lot of times when you're looking up deeds, it'll say there's no deed on record. That's all part of the way that the system is put together. It needs a major overhaul. We know that it costs money, but you have to make choices sometimes in life. And making that choice and making it user-friendly, making it available for people to use and people to see how easy it is, it then becomes a tool. And as I go back, and I hate to keep repeating myself, videos on there so that we can even explain how to use the website. I think that's most important.
Rebuttals? Nope. All right. Next and final question. The clerk's office responds to numerous public record requests. What is your opinion of how the New Jersey Open Public Records Act has been implemented, and do you see any problems in administering the law? And we will start with Joseph Girallo.
Absolutely have no problem with administering the law. I deal with OPRA requests in my office all the time. The public has a right to know, and they need to know in a timely manner, and there's a reason why they've asked for the information that they're asking for. So absolutely not support it. Seem to think that I was around in politics long before that, what we call the Sunshine Law and the law on OPRA, and I think it's important that the public know because, as I've said for many, many years, it's your money, and you need to know how it's being spent and where it's being spent.
Lisa Jim Petty.
I don't have any problem with supporting that. I think it is the public's right to get information. There's one thing, though, because we deal with this a lot at City Hall. We have a very small staff at City Hall, and a lot of times people come in for a lot of information, and it does take time, and it takes the clerk away from, we only have a clerk and a deputy clerk, and that's really it. It takes time away from their day to do it, so they wind up having to stay overtime and things like that, which they gladly do to get their job done. But some people also abuse the system, and they come in and ask for crazy stuff that, they know it's just going to be an issue for the clerk to deal with.
Rebuttals?
None.
All right, that concludes the question and answer portion of the debate. So we will now go to closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement in the reverse order of the opening statement, and the timekeeper will give a 30-second warning. We will start with Joseph Girallo.
First of all, again, let me thank the League of Women Voters for their time and their energy and for a very, very well-ran debate. Let me thank my opponent for coming out this evening to share her views. Let me say that since day one, I said I was running for this office to clean up the clerk's office, make it the best-ran clerk's office in the state. We need to stop the botched elections. We need to stop the mistakes. We need to be held accountable. We need to make sure that the buck stops with the clerk and not sit there and blame employees. It's important. This is an important office. Why? Because everyone will interface with it at some time in their life. As I've pointed out over and over, I have a 5-point plan to clean up the clerk's office. We'll start with ensure that our elections are conducted in a fair and appropriate manner. Engage with the community to perform those services. Expand the hours and services for our citizens, most important. Invest in critical infrastructure. You've heard that over and over tonight, the infrastructure of the system. It's antiquated. And to modernize the technology. Move forward with the office. Make the office available to the public. Make sure the public understands what the clerk's office does. Be a part of the community. And I will assure you that when this clerk is elected, this clerk will be there. I'll be the first one in, and I'll be the last one out. Why? Because it's time to cross the T's, dot the I's, get the job done. We cannot continue to afford 5 more years of errors. Thank you, and thank you all for your time. And thank you, Lisa.
And Lisa Jimpetti.
Again, thank you to everyone who was here tonight, who helped make this event possible. I'm so happy that you invited me to be here. I said in the beginning, I want to make the county clerk's office user-friendly, efficient, effective, and an extension of the community, which is important. I am looking forward to collaborating with people to find their input as to what could be improved in the clerk's office, and also suggestions that they may have. I'm committed and devoted to education. I was in the education career field for 15 years, as I had mentioned before, and I believe it's very important. I think that my experience, skills, and education make me a great candidate for the Atlantic County Clerk's position. I have been a mayor for 9 years and on city council for 6 years. I'm quite familiar with how government works and how offices work. I connect well with people, and I love people. And that's a much-needed skill for, I believe, the job. And as mayor, I have been accessible to all my residents. Most of them have my cell phone number, and I intend to be just as accessible to people when I'm elected county clerk. I have been involved in many elections over the years, and I know what both the voters and also the candidates' concerns are in elections, and I will work hard to address those concerns. As your county clerk, I promise to work hard for you. I will improve what needs to be improved and change what needs to be changed to make the office the best it can be.
Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates. I'm sure everyone watching online is applauding right now. Thank you to the league for helping put this on, and for the timekeeper. And I just remind everyone, if you would like to revisit this debate or any other debate that has been put on by the Hughes Center and our sponsors this fall, go to the Hughes Center website, www.stockton.edu/Hughes Center. This concludes tonight's event. Thank you and good night.